Call the Crystal Council meeting to order. Let's start with roll call, please.
Councilmember Deschler.
Here.
Councilmember Kaiser.
Here.
Councilmember LaRoche.
Here.
Councilmember Parsons.
Here.
Mayor Adams.
Here.
Councilmember Banks.
Here.
Councilmember Budashevsky.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right. Thank you, Katrina. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, good evening, everybody. We do have an agenda before us. Looking for a motion on that agenda. Nancy?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Brendan?
I second that.
All right, all members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We have a consent agenda. I will read that into the record at this time. First item is the minutes from the following meetings. Work session from September 10th, 2020, a work session from September 15th, 2020, and a meeting on that same date. And then approval of the list of license applications submitted by the city clerk to the city council. That list is on file in her office. And then acceptance of a resignation from Roycie Earvin from the EQC. That is our consent agenda. Julie?
I'll move approval of the consent agenda as read.
All right, looking for a second. John?
I second that motion.
All right. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Is there anybody here wishing to speak for open forum? Anybody here? All right, why don't you approach? No, I didn't get your yellow slip yet.
Good evening, Mayor, Council.
Good evening.
Bert Orr at 6700 60th Avenue North, Crystal. It's a single subject. It relates to the election that will be on November 3rd for the general election. And I had talked to Ann Norris earlier when things went with the primary, and she said it was relatively trouble-free. And I just want some assurance from Crystal that it will continue to be so for the general election. I'm a little bit concerned that I hear there are disruptors out there that specifically try to intimidate people with regard to on-site voting. And in addition, I read an article today from Columbia University specifying that there's very little action that anybody that is a voter can really take with regard to people who do those kinds of things. And that pretty much is the gist of it. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Bert.
Thank you, Bert. Yeah,
Yes.
please.
Can I ask a question pertaining to that?
Go ahead, Olga.
So should there be any kind of intimidation or anything that could potentially preclude people from voting? Are there police plans in place and things like that to protect people who are voting in person?
There are laws in the state to protect people to be able to allow people to vote. We try not to bring the police into voting places for obvious reasons. We try to keep them separate, but they are available. Election judges are also trained on how to handle disruptors and poll watchers and challengers. So we think we have a good plan.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to speak to Bert's concern, and I'm sure a lot of other people's.
No, we just wanted to respond to your concerns, that's all, Bert. All right. Anyone else wishing to speak during open forum? Seeing no one approach, we will move past open forum. We'll close that, and we're moving to, let's see, we're going to receive comment and consideration for assessment roles. Mark Ray is here to address the council on this issue. Mark, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thanks for indulging me here, making this flexible and making it work. Tonight you have a public hearing for the 2020 Recon Private Assessment Sewer Work. There were 65 properties in the project area. 10 or 15% did participate in this program. The total cost to be assessed was $52,250. This breaks down to $5,225 per property. As noted before, this was a voluntary program. One thing I did want to note is that the EDA home improvement grant was leveraged for some of these homes. 6 properties did receive a grant. The way the program is set up, the value is capped at 40% of the project, which was $2,090 for this sanitary sewer lining effort. Those residents will get the check once the council authorizes the assessment this evening. The property owner then will be responsible for paying the full balance, but really the remaining portion, which would be $3,135. Next slide. The purpose of the public hearing tonight is to give property owners an opportunity to express concerns about the actual special assessment. City Council shall hear and consider all objections to the proposed assessment, whether presented orally or in writing. So with that, Mayor, I'm turning it back to you to hold the public hearing.
All right, thank you, Mark. Are there any questions from the council for Mark on this issue? All right, seeing none, I will open the public hearing. Is there anybody here wishing to testify at this public hearing? Anybody wishing to testify? Seeing nobody approach for testifying, we'll close the public hearing. There is some action here from the council looking for a motion on that action. Go ahead, Nancy.
I'll make a motion to approve the adopting the assessment role for 2020 utility reconstruction, private sanitary sewer service lining repairs.
All right, thank you. Looking for a second. John?
I second that motion.
All right, all members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right.
Can I ask just a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So John, on this, the 40% that they could apply for, were the residents, was everybody told about that program?
Yes, in the project letter that was sent out in, I think, April.
Okay.
To all the property owners in the project area. There was a paragraph or two in that one-page letter that made them aware of the opportunity to apply for this grant and what the amount would be and so on.
That's an incredible deal. I wish they had that last year when I had mine done.
Well, if I may
Yeah, go ahead.
clarify, that 40% for sewer lining type work is not limited to our projects, because we know that people throughout the city might have a sewer line that fails or is leaking or whatever, and they need to replace it or line it. And that 40% is double the percentage of our grant normally. Our grant normally is 20%. And the reason we did that, we made that change, I think, last year, was to incentivize people to make those improvements to the sanitary sewer system and reduce infiltration and inflow into the system, which helps the city as well.
Right. But people need to know that you have to apply for that grant in advance of getting the work done.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I just helped somebody that did at a project in Ward 4 apply for that, not particularly for sewer, but for something else. And it was very efficient and very, seemed to be pretty easy. And once the, what do they call those? When the inspector comes out and does the final inspection, and then that information gets back to that company that gives out the money, I think it takes about 2 or 3 weeks to receive a check for the 20% or 40% or whatever the project is. Really, really a great program.
Thank you. That's nice to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Julie. All right. Next, we have first item on the regular agenda, that is disbursements of $25,000 or greater. I will read that into the record at this time. Hunt Electric for the purchase of Light Street poles, $35,300. LMCIT for workers' compensations, insurance premiums, $99,407. Logis for monthly charges for the North Tower Fiber and the Lift Station Fiber, $102,987. Center for Energy and Environmental, home improvement loans, program cost is $26,805. Core and Main LP for a census antenna for $34,275. First Dam 1 LLC, it's 103461 LLC. Never seen numbers like that in a name like that. That's for the refund for escrow deposit, $59,170. IP3AF Broadway LLC, that's another refund for escrow, $72,500. Northdale Construction Company for 2020 utility reconstruction, Payment number 4, $159,177. Short Elliott Hendrickson for 2020 reconstruction costs, $34,061. West Metro Fire Rescue District, September contributions for West Metro, $106,380. Metropolitan Council, for water waste service for October, $137,128. Nelson Family Foundation Real Estate for refund of the deposit, escrow deposit, $28,764. Taylor Electric Company West Lift Station Generator, that is $55,120. Min-Para for employee city required contributions for pay date 9/18/2020, $61,000 even, well, mostly even, just 97 cents there. Waste Management for the August recycling cost, $53,600. Total disbursements of $25,000 or greater is $1,065,678.44. Questions from the council on any of these items? Seeing no questions. All right, looking for a motion. Julie?
I'll move approval of the expenditures over 25,000.
All right, thank you. Looking for a second?
I'll second.
Therese? Thank you. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right. Next, the council will consider authorizing a resolution for the purchase of the replacement pump at South Lift Station. Mark Ray is here to address the council on that one as well. So here we go again, Mark. Welcome.
Right, thank you very much. One thing I did want to know, Mayor, on that last item, at our last council meeting, you requested clear communication with the residents regarding payment options. In the council packet was the sample letter that will be sent to all the homeowners tomorrow, including all the information. So just want to let you know that is included in your packet.
Awesome.
Moving on to this item here, as part of our long-term planning effort a few years ago, one of the minor changes we did was to change the replacement of pumps at lift stations out of the capital projects and shifting them over to the operating fund. And the reason for this is pumps go bad, they're not quite planned, and they're not such a large capital investment like some of the other things, for example, our reconstruction projects. So it was really to provide us some flexibility in budgeting and planning for this kind of thing. So with that, the number 3 pump, which is our largest pump at the South Lift Station, does need to be replaced. There's the total cost for that is about $78,000. But the pump will be purchased this year and then installed next year. And so what that'll do is actually split the cost over the 2 years, and it'll be under budget overall. The number 3 pump is used primarily during large rain events or other high flow events where we have a lot of fresh water, unfortunately, entering the sewer system. Also, and this is kind of subtle, the design of the current pump is really not easy to maintain, which is problematic because it gets clogged somewhat regularly. And we actually have to disassemble the whole drive shaft in order to clear the clog. So as noted, the total cost is $78,385. It'll be split over 2 years. The pump will be purchased this year. It'll be installed probably January 2021. So overall, it'll be under budget. With that, the item before you is a motion to approve the resolution of the purchase. And with that, I'll take any questions you have.
All right, thank you, Mark. Questions from the council? Therese?
How old is the pump that's being replaced?
That is a great question that I don't have the answer to and will need to get back to you on.
Okay, thank you.
Nancy?
Mark, what's the average lifespan of these?
So that's the challenge with the pumps. So the number 3, or the South Lift has 3 pumps. The 2 of them are actually smaller pumps, and those are the ones run more day to day. This larger pump is used primarily during, like I said, large rain events. And so it really depends on Mother Nature for as far as how intense the operation is and therefore how long it lasts. I want to say this one's been in there for at least 15 years. I'm going to try to get the information right now, as a matter of fact. So yeah, I mean, we're expecting a long life out of this, and it's not something that you'll be seeing again here in the next, 5 to 10 years.
Thank you.
Brendan?
All right, so I guess more of a clarification. I think, and you answered it already, because we budgeted $50,000 a year, and so my initial thought was, so we're going to be 28,000 over, but in fact, because it's going to be over 2 years, will be 21,000 under?
Correct. And the other thing to note is we put that in for, $50,000 a year. But hopefully most years, because of the life of the pump, we won't have to use it to replace a pump. We're not be replacing a pump every year, but it gives us the flexibility that when it comes up, that it needs to be done, we can just take care of it then and not try to delay it further along. So that's
So
kind of the balance of the two.
he says that when the pump goes down, we'll be ready to be able to buy a new one.
He's like, I know, he's like, why is everybody laughing?
Mark,
That's
your
exactly
audio
right.
now.
And to be honest, the alternative is putting sewage in our kind, loving taxpayers' basements. I don't think that's a good
That
alternative.
is not a good alternative.
Right.
Agreed.
So, Mark, I couldn't help think what it must be like in a large rain event to have that clog. Is there a bunch of backed up water behind that clog? Does that make that, what does that look like?
Well, so hopefully it just reduces the efficiency with which the pumping occurs. It's not a full clog. The other thing to note is because it's one of three, we would have 3 pumps going simultaneously.
Okay.
So we'd still be moving, but theoretically, yes, if there was a major clog and a lot was coming in, we could back it up and impact resident homes.
Okay.
And that's why we're doing kind of the trifecta. So we're making sure our pumps are well maintained. We're installing backup generators so that power outages don't compromise the system, provide some more flexibility. And then we're just being diligent about the ongoing maintenance. All of our lift stations are checked every single day.
Okay. Yeah, that's a big deal. Thank you. Any other questions? John?
I'd just like to make a motion if I could.
Okay. Questions? Seeing none? Go ahead, John.
I make a motion approving the replacement of the sanitary sewer lift station pump.
All right, looking for a second. Brendan?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Mark. Is that it for Mark tonight? Yep. All right. Good night. All right, next the council will take public comment on the preliminary 2021-2022 budget and levies. We have our financial director here, Jean McGann, to address the council. Jean, welcome.
Good evening. As Mayor mentioned, this evening is an opportunity for the public to provide input on this meeting, on the overall 2021 budget. We will have an official public hearing, though, in December. So this is more of an opportunity for any members of the public to comment on the preliminary budget and levy. So as we look at the overall goals for the 2021 and 2022 budget, the goals really do contain the components of continuing a 2-year budget process and financial planning cycle. This was originally started with the 2019-20 budget, and we are continuing that process with the 2021-2022 budget. The goal is to maintain the current service levels with minimal impact to residents, and also continuing to implement the council's 4 priorities. In addition to that, a major objective is to continue to fund capital so that additional bonds or debt doesn't need to be issued for your buildings or fleet equipment, those types of things. And also to continue to keep the enterprise utility fund solvent and with moderate rate increases, and this is based still on the 2018 rate study for the utilities. So as we look at, I'm sorry, this just doesn't look like the presentation. I apologize, but it's.
What's the next page?
Public input meeting?
That's all right, I can wing it.
She can do it.
Not that one, sorry.
That's not it.
I think the one in the packet is the one that you sent, correct?
Thank you. Okay. John was kind enough to hand me his packet, so what we'll do is, can you just put the regular presentation back up, and I will just wing it. All right. Oh, that's okay. Just go ahead and, it's fine. It'll have the majority of what I need. I can just talk to the rest of it.
Sorry, Jean.
That's okay. I have done this one a few times.
We've heard it a few times.
I know you have.
Oh, you want the other?
Yeah, if you can just
Oh,
put the initial one
sorry,
back
I
up,
thought
we'll
you
be
had it.
fine.
All right, sorry.
Thank you.
I'll lay down here.
Okay. If we look at the overall council goals, the council does have several goals that impact, all the community. And so a thriving business climate is absolutely essential to the objectives of the budget. And on each one of these slides, in regards to the council objectives, we've stated the initiatives that have been surrounding each one of the objectives. Next slide. Okay. Strong neighborhoods. Now, if the public recalls, there was the Parks Master Plan that was created a couple years ago, and there has been a significant focus on that Parks Master Plan. And as we are looking at our levies, there is a significant, or not a significant, but a 1% increase that goes into our Park Improvement Fund to continue on with the master plan. Sound financial policies. I mentioned before that in 2019, 2020, the city started the biannual budget process. We've also developed a long-term plan. And with this long-term plan, we've been able to look strategically at all functions and operations, including buildings, fleet, equipment. We're including all of our utility funds as well as the general fund to really take that broad look at the city and projecting out that over a 5-year period. A welcoming and inclusive community. Now, once again, there's been a significant number of initiatives that have surrounded this particular goal of the council. And the items listed here are not all of the items that or initiatives that have been focused towards this particular goal, but we wanted to give you a good sample of those. When we look at the proposed property tax levy, for 2021, we are proposing a 6.23% property tax levy increase. Now, one of the things that you'll likely notice is that the general levy appears to have a significant increase. But what I do want to explain is that we have a change in accounting methodology, whereas it used to be we would have a property tax levy that would be specifically directed to our fleet, to our building, different funds such as that. What we've done, however, is to change that accounting where we have 100% of that levy. So we only have a 6.23% levy increase. We've just changed how that levy is allocated. And so what happens then is every department within the general fund then pays into your fleet, your building, your IT fund. So just so that I wanted to make it very clear that the overall levy hasn't changed, it's just the allocation of that levy. So if you look at the very bottom line, where you look at the 2020 levy and compare that to the 2021 proposed levy, you'll see that it is a 6.23% increase. It's just a different way of allocating the levy dollars, but the bottom line impact is 6.23%. As we look at the levy increase breakdown, it's really important to note that as we identify the specific areas, 2.27% is lost revenue, and that comes from a variety of places, in which we will talk about that in a minute here. Wage and benefit increases equate to 2.51%. We have some minor, about $17,000 of inflationary increases. We do have some police additions, and what that is for the overtime required to care for a K-9 dog, and it's also to add a mental health program within the police department. We have an increase within the contribution to our West Metro Fire Rescue District. Elections are decreased by almost $113,000, as 2021 is not an election year, so we were able to reduce those expenses. We have some capital increases of almost $174,000, and we had a slight increase in our EDA allocation. When we look at the overall general fund summary, you'll see that we have, in 2020, we had about $14.3 million in the 2020 budget, and the 2021 is 16.1. Now, once again, that increase is because of the reallocation of property taxes and the 6.23% increase in property taxes itself. Under our expenditures within the general funds, we do have a, this particular slide is programmed such that we can look at the increases with and without that accounting allocation. So I'm going to focus on without the accounting allocation so you can look at some real numbers as far as increases or decreases. Within general government, that includes all of your, finance, human resources, elections, things of that nature. We're seeing a 3% increase there. For public safety, we're seeing a 2.61% increase. Community development is actually showing a decrease of almost 1%. Public Works is up 1.4%, recreation by 4.3%, and then we have a interfund transfer that's up by 1%. So if you look at this without when you're looking at the real numbers, after or before the accounting change, we have a 2.51% increase in expenditures for the general fund. We also thought it was important to share the EDA budget. And with the EDA budget, we have a budget of, a property tax levy in 2020 of $288,399. And we are proposing to increase that to $300,000 to support the activities of the EDA. When we look at the specific levy increase components, so we had the total general fund increase over 2020 was $579,000. And so when we look at that, we have some very specific decreases. I talked before how we had revenue decreases, and this is really where we get into the details of that. Special assessments that are programmed to be coming into the general fund are decreasing by $18,500. Delinquent property taxes and interest by $28,000. Charges for services and licenses and permits is really the larger component as to why the revenues are decreasing within the general funds. We also are losing funding for the school resource officer of $33,000, and fines and forfeits are decreasing by $32,000. SAC charges decreasing by $25,000. There was, however, a new antenna agreement which will increase revenue by $17,000. Interest earnings, we anticipate to increase by $30,000, and then there's some other minor, modifications as well. As I mentioned before, wages and benefits, we are seeing a $338,000 increase in wages and benefits. If we look at the police department, as I mentioned, there were two components to that. We have the $7,100 for the K-9 for the care, and then we also have the police mental health for the $35,000. And the assessing contract with the county, that also has increased as well. And then, as I mentioned before, we have an increase for the West Metro Fire Rescue District of $58,000. The one component that we did not include within the presentation as of yet is the impact to residents. And the reason for that is because we will have much better information once the tax notices come out in November. We have worked internally, though, to come up with some type of an estimate for you. However, we want to make certain when we give you numbers and all sorts of different average valued homes that we're giving you real numbers. For now, what I can tell you when we're looking at our estimates, if we have a median valued home of about $220,000, we're anticipating about a $58 increase when we're looking at a 6.23% property tax levy increase.
$58 a year.
A year, yeah, $58 per year annually. Now, this does not take into account if this $220,000 home had a value increase, or if they put an addition on, or, their value just increased by, 5% or something based on what the assessor values this at. This is strictly just taking the 2020 to 2021 at a $220,000 valued home.
And that's the city portion.
That is the city portion.
Still, we'll see an increase likely for Hennepin County and then the school district.
That is correct. And each one of those taxing jurisdictions, they also hold the public input meetings, and they will be holding those in December. And, they are also going through the process of all of their preliminary, property taxes, levies, budgets, and all of that at this point as well. Now, I do every year like to share that there are some property tax relief programs as well. And the slide that I have up there right now, there is a homestead credit refund, there's a renter's refund, there's also a special property tax refund when property taxes increase by X% year over year, and there's a senior citizen property tax deferral program as well. Any of these programs can be found on the Minnesota Department of Revenue website, or I've also included the phone number for additional information if people are interested in that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jean. And thank you for the clarification on the public comments as well. Are there any questions for Jean on this presentation from the council? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. All right, there's no vote on this one, so we'll move on to item number 4. The council will consider a resolution approving the contract with Frost Anderson for professional services. We have our chief here, Chief Earvin, here to address the council. Welcome.
Hi, thanks, Mayor, members of the council. As you are aware, because of you, we are in the process of a new police department building. And one of the factors in that is us hiring a construction manager who you met a few weeks ago. Jason Restmister was here. So what's before you is the actual resolution, and then you were also emailed the contract itself. And so we're looking for you to approve the resolution for a little over $600,000 for a construction manager.
All right. Any questions for the chief on this? Go ahead, Julie.
Well, I think I read that this was already, the cost of this was already included in the estimate.
Correct.
So it's not an additional.
No. Nope, I should have said that so people didn't freak out.
Yeah.
And also, the reason for this, as stated too, is because, as you know, it's a complex project because we have partial tear down of the building and then in addition put it on, construction terms. Put it on. So anyway, sorry. So in any event, this is the reason why we need that construction manager, because you certainly don't want myself, Kim, or Ann as the construction manager during something like this. No offense to them, but.
All right. Any other questions? Seeing none, looking for a motion?
Yeah.
Brendan?
I make a motion approving the resolution, approving a construction manager agreement for the police department building project.
All right, Julie?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we will take a look at the affordable life cycle housing goals to continue participating in the Metropolitan Council's livable community programs. Livable community program. Sorry about that. We have John Sutter here to address the council. Welcome, John.
Well, thank you, Mayor, council members, and just wait till you get into Met Council's acronyms, because
Right.
I stumble over those all the time. So this is a short presentation, but an important one for the next 10 years. Every 10 years, cities in the metro area have the opportunity to participate in the Livable Communities program, and that participation gives us access to various funding sources through Metropolitan Council for development projects. The most recent example in Crystal was in 2012 when we were awarded a $200,000 grant for for asbestos abatement at the former Kavanaugh School, which, as you now know, is a 130-unit affordable senior apartment building. So that's just one example of the kind of funding that we would have access to if we continue to participate in this program. So what does it mean to participate in the program? Cities have to adopt affordable and life cycle housing goals for each decade. And for the next decade, starting next year, we have to adopt new goals. Looking back, the bottom half of the screen there at the goals that were adopted for the decade that is now just ending, you can see that we've already met or exceeded the goals that were established in 2010. So at the next slide, please. The proposed new goals, one back, thank you. The proposed new goals are actually quite a bit lower, and we negotiated these with Metropolitan Council as part of our comprehensive plan update, which you just adopted last year. So the important things to remember are these are the same goals that we already have approved in our comprehensive plan. There's no penalty for cities who do not meet the goals. We know of at least one development project planned for 2021, and that one project will probably meet the entire affordable housing goal for the 10-year period and roughly half of the life cycle housing goal for the 10-year period. So really, we do not have any concern about the ability of natural market-based, market-driven development to have us meet those goals over the next 10 years. So with that, we would request your approval of the resolution in your packet to establish the Livable Communities Act goals for 2021 to 2030. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, John. Questions for John? Go ahead, John.
Not so much about this program, but I thought that when we had the asbestos abated on Kavanaugh School, it was $400,000. So maybe the cost is $400,000. We got half of that from Hennepin County. Is that right?
I think that might include the demolition, and we got a different grant from the county for that. So I think roughly half of the $400,000 came from Met Council for the asbestos abatement,
Okay.
which was actually, I think, a little bit more expensive than the demolition of the building itself. That's just the way that works. So yes, we got roughly half of it from Met Council for abatement,
Right.
and then another roughly $200,000 from Hennepin County for the demolition. So because of those two different sources of grant funding, we were able to take the site down to vacant land at no expense to the city. We participated in other ways, but that was not our cost.
Yeah, that was. I remember, if I recall, that was a good deal. So yeah, that's excellent. Thank you. That was the only clarification I wanted to make. So.
All right. No questions? Looking for a motion on this? John?
Make a resolution electing to continue participating in the local housing incentives account program under the Metropolitan Livable Communities Act.
Looking for a second?
I'll second.
Nancy?
I'll second.
Trees, second.
Oh, I called on Nancy.
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry. I'll second.
Thank you.
We had a tie with our hands up.
Well, that's why
The next one.
I called on someone. All right. That's a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right. Thank you, John.
Let's skip a little bit, Mayor.
What'd I do?
Nothing.
All right. Next are announcements. The city council meeting for our next one will be Tuesday, October 20th at 7:00 p.m. here at City Crystal Hall. Absentee voting continues here at City Hall, 8 a.m. to 4:30. That's Monday through Friday. And a reminder that city council meetings and work sessions are open to the public. Current and previous meetings are available for viewing and listening on our website, www.crystalmn.gov. Any other announcements from the council members? Nancy?
Not an announcement, but I would love a little recap of the Night to Unite First Responder Parade that happened tonight, because I'm seeing some really nice comments on social media thanking you.
Oh, yeah, sure. So as you know, technically, Minnesota Night to Unite was supposed to be August 3rd, I believe, and because of COVID, we had moved it, just as everybody else did in the state, to today's date. And then, obviously, due to COVID, we decided that it probably wasn't best that we promote people going, or us going to each other's homes and having contact with them. So Deputy Chief Hubbard actually and Sergeant Justin Tourville came up with a phenomenal idea of doing the brigade, and it went I tell you, I had a blast for the last hour between 5:30 and 6:30, waving to, why is Julie laughing at me? Why is
Okay,
she-
just keep going. Just ignore her.
Thank you, John. I had a blast personally, reaching out the window and waving, and I know that a lot of residents, we had a ton of participation, a ton of residents that were outside greeting us, and it was just greatly appreciated.
All right,
Very nice.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
Thank
Sure.
you so much. Thank you.
I don't know what you did. to
Hopefully
her.
we'll see some video, because I think, Deputy Chief, did you say there might have been a drone or some video drones?
All right, there
Good.
will be some video. All right, any other announcements? Seeing none, looking for a motion? John?
So moved.
Therese, you want to, second? Thank you. Sorry about that. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Have a great night. We'll see you in a couple weeks.